Ragnaros the Firelord is synonymous with classic WoW. He's had many appearances in my videos, so it's clear that he should get his own video as well. This big ball of raging fire was snuffed out in Classic, and his true power was never really revealed. So get in your time machines and strap in, because we're going all the way back to Azeroth's very foundation. Water, earth, fire, air. Long ago, the four elements lived together in harmony, but everything changed when a Titan god, living within the core of the very earth, consumed all of the fifth element, spirit. This element was used to create balance, but since it was devoured by Azeroth herself, the forces of the world went into great conflict. So pretty much the yin-yang element that keep all of the others in check was eaten by Azeroth's Titan World Soul, so they all started fighting. The rulers of these forces were called the Elemental Lords, which are Neptulon, Therazane, Thunderan, and Ragnaros. During the endless civil war between these elementals, Ragnaros was known for being the most aggressive, choking the skies with ash and creating volcanoes in his wake. Much like the elements he harnessed, he stopped at nothing for power.
What the f-
The old gods we all know and love came from the Great Dark Beyond, which is basically World of Warcraft space. These Lovecraftian dark beings were a great threat to the Elemental Lords, and for the first time in history, the elements teamed up to fight against this new void threat. Ragnaros and Thunderan used the power of fire and air to create fire death tornado storms to destroy any old god minions in their wake.
Die, insect!
Like sweating insects!
But eventually, the corruption of the old gods started to sink into the Elemental Lords, and their minds were broken, and they became servants to their new, dark masters.
What should we do with them?
I don't know, we could make them fight or something.
Excuse me, but what is going on here?
Oh, fuck.
The Titans realized the devastation the old gods inflicted on their world and sent down their Titanforged soldiers to fight against the enslaved elements and their Black Empire. Ragnaros battled against the Titan Keepers Tyr and Odin for weeks, but was anything but successful.
Ragnaros, stop. This is not how you prove your worth to enter the gates of Valhalla. I'm telling you. Stop!
The Firelord and the rest of the elemental leaders were picked up by the Titan Keepers and casted into a dimension known as the Elemental Plane within the core of Azeroth, which served as a prison for the rambunctious lords. Ragnaros was driven into the area of the Elemental Plane called the Firelands, which isn't really a creative name, but while imprisoned, his need for more power could never be quenched. His conquest this time? Harvesting the power from Thunderan, Prince of Air.
Yo, check this out. World Star! World Star!
The fight was ended by Ragnaros feasting on Thunderan's essence, absorbing his power for his own. He was unable to consume all of his energy, so he put the rest in the Talisman of Elemental Bindings, which he split in two and gave to his lieutenants, Baron-Geddon and Gar. But more on that later. Fast forward a bit more and Ragnaros is pulled from the elemental plane by the Dark Iron Dwarves. I go over this more in detail in another video, but the short story is, the Dark Iron accidentally summoned Ragnaros back to Azeroth, and Blackrock Mountain was created as a result, and Ragnaros enslaved the rest of the Dark Iron. Since Ragnaros was summoned rather abruptly, he was nowhere near his true strength. In order to take over Azeroth, he'd need to slowly build up his power before he could unleash the reckoning on the world once again. So Ragnaros and his bros carved out the Molten Core, where the Firelord could soak in a lava bath to regain his strength. From the safety of the core, he could send out his Dark Iron followers and his fire elementals to try and fully retake the mountain from the Dark Horde that forced themselves in the Spire. This was a very stressful time for the people of Azeroth because the Molten Core was a ticking time bomb, and if they didn't deal with the problem soon, Ragnaros would emerge from the mountain's depths at his full strength and surely doom their world. Moira Bronzebeard, who was now the leader of the Dark Iron Dwarves after adventurers killed their former king, spread the word that there was some fat loot within the Molten Core. Her plan was to get adventurers to go into the Molten Core and kill Ragnaros so the Dark Iron would be free from the Firelord's grasp. The Hydraxian Waterlords also offered aid to anybody willing to challenge the Firelord. The Hydraxi are water elementals in Ishara that hate Ragnaros because, they're water so they hate fire, I guess. And so, adventurers from the Horde and the Alliance delve into the Molten Core to put a stop to Ragnaros and his goons. For those that don't know, the development of the Molten Core only lasted a week, so a lot of these bosses don't really have complex stories. But there was a TCG deck about the Molten Core that gives us some more lore. But it's all non-canon. We can still find a few bits of official lore to chew on though, so let's explore. Magmadar is the oldest corehound in existence, and every corehound's lineage can be traced back to him. It's also believed that corehounds are kept as pets, and they can understand the language known as Kali Mag, which is the language the elements speak. So, I've always thought these guys were called Flame Walkers, but apparently I've been wrong this whole time, and they're called Flame Wakers, not Walkers. I feel like this is a Bernstein versus a Bernstein Bears moment, where people have different recollections of what they are called, but I can't be the only guy that thought this, right? Nevertheless, much like most of WoW lore, these guys are total ripoffs of salamanders in D&D, who are also fiery snake-like monsters. In fact, even in the game's files, these guys are called salamanders. Major Domo Executus is one of these Flame Wakers, who is at the top of the hierarchy of the Molten Core, just below Ragnaros. He is defeated and submits, and in exchange for his life being spared, he offers to summon Ragnaros for us, knowing that his master would be able to defeat us in one fell swoop. Spoilers, that doesn't happen. Executus summons Ragnaros at only a fraction of his true power. That's why he goes, "Too soon. You have awakened me too soon, Executus. What is the meaning of this intrusion?" And in a fiery rage, he strikes him down. Despite being a mere glimmer of his true power, he puts up a fight against the adventurers of Azeroth, but is eventually defeated and sent back down into the elemental plane forever. Well, at least until Cataclysm. We aren't done just yet though. After clearing Molten Core probably 50 times or so, Baron Geddon and Gar might drop both bindings of the Windseeker. These bindings have a very low drop chance, and they are used to make Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker. Players use the bindings to summon Thunderan once again, only to strike him down and harvest the rest of their power for their own.
10,000 years will really give you a crick in the neck. Oh god, please no.
Players kill him and obtain the weapon. Lore-wise, a dwarf warrior named Ray was the holder of this weapon, and he's named after the first ever player to obtain the weapon in-game, and is found dead in Azuna in the Legion expansion. And that's the story of Ragnaros in Classic. He's an all-powerful being that could have destroyed us in an instant, but due to unfortunate circumstances by his followers, he was snuffed out and banished once again.